of the REITs coming in and snapping up a lot of the single family home ownership stock, converting it to single family rentals, and a lot of the times renting it out for very high prices with substandard quality. So trying to address those types of issues, uh, but also these questions about the times where uh, it can be used as a method of excluding, and particularly as you think about some of the areas in our community where we've seen a lot of residential segregation and where you know geography really matters. So we tend to end up with some areas of uh, concentrated white affluence, and the times when like the we see that argument being deployed and weaponized against low income households and communities of color. And I think that that is not inevitable. And certainly, as Heidi is describing it, there is a difference between preserving affordable home ownership opportunities and preserving enclaves of white wealth.
Mhm.
And as long as we're sort of thinking about the distinction, I think it becomes a really important one, especially because part of fair housing is thinking about it not as we're creating X and you have to be there, but about creating a variety of choices for people so that regardless of your race or your disability status or your family status, you have options, fair housing options that are available to you free of discriminatory barriers, and that you're provided the information to access those options. So often, I think we get stuck at step number one, which is those options don't exist. And in particular, if you think about how inequitable our region is, Brianne is dead on that this is a prosperous region, but that is not an evenly felt prosperity. And so disproportionately, very low income households, so 30% below AMI, disproportionately statistically are households of color. And the chances of being a low income, severely housing cost burden person are quadruple for Black households, white households. So I think this is kind of turning into a little bit of word salad, but like these questions about housing supply, housing quality, where it is, who has access to it, are deeply connected to racial equity conversations,
Mhm.
because who we think about matters. And which is one of the reasons why, and I come from a housing finance background, and before that, academic and all this stuff. But that's one of the reasons why we focus so much of our work on deep affordability, on that 30% and below AMI, because from a fair housing standpoint, because of the disproportionality of who is low income in our region, um, and that for the most part, folks at 30% and below AMI don't just have no option, like a range of choices. They have no choices at all. There is usually nothing. So the question is, how do we create the something out of the nothing? And then how do we break down those barriers for people then to access what's out there and break down kind of the discrimination that exists within our system, and make sure that the tools that people have that they can utilize to have those housing opportunities are available to them?